Hey everyone, I am MSK, aka Master Swag King, coming at you guys today with another video. And in today's video, I am going to be going over a YouTube video that James Krake put out on his YouTube channel titled Indies Are Not Competition, It's Worse. So I will leave a link to this specific video in the description box below, so that way you guys can check the video out yourself and subscribe to James's Krake YouTube channel. Also, I did a one-on-one episode of the Iron Man podcast with James Krake. You can also check that out on my Rumble channel. So during the Iron Man podcast episode that I did with Jake, I was actually pretty sick, but you guys couldn't tell in the video because I was able to just kind of, push that to the side and push through doing the episode with him. And he was actually a really good guest. I had a great conversation with him despite being very sick at the time. And I really liked his perspective on how he was viewing movies and TV and all that stuff, actually, and I saw people on Twitter saying that he was kind of like overly negative, and I didn't feel that way when I actually just spoke to him one-on-one, because I think people need to understand when it comes to anybody reviewing anything, whether it be a book, whether it be a movie, whether it be a TV show, an anime, or whatever you're reviewing, is that people are going to have like their own styles about how they review something, and that just depends on kind of just like whatever, right? It's going to literally just depend on how this person grew up viewing whatever medium they were consuming, right? So I might have a different, viewpoint on how I review something than, let's say, someone like him, right? So, and the big discussion around indies on like other social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook has gotten very just disgustingly weird, because it's a lot of things that people kind of really should know, but then you have to kind of sit back and look and go, well, they're not going to really know that because they're just new at doing this, or this might be their first creative endeavor. But I wanted to check out his video and see what he said, because I know he's been kind of boiling this in for a bit, so I imagine it's just a pure hardcore rant. No, I mean, James not like that, but let's see what he has to say. All right, let me move my webcam just a little bit tinier. Okay, let's go.
So this is my second attempt, because the first attempt at recording this rant was mute for no apparent reason. Anyways, I'm really frustrated with how Twitter is feeding me nothing but goddamn drama bait. That's
Twitter. That's like when it comes to like a lot of drama and all that crazy stuff like certain accounts will put out, I just had to mute them because it's just so mentally damaging some days, Now, I get it. For certain things you can't do that for, because you don't want to put your head fully in the sand when it comes to a lot of things. You want to be in the know about a lot of things, but sometimes I just had to mute. It's very bad.
To obviously be the modus operandi of all social media.
Yeah, and people have to understand Twitter is the biggest social media platform on this planet. So if you want the best place to advertise, you do kind of have to be there. Or, I mean, you could also still build a Facebook group, right? I mean, that's still a very effective way, but, Facebook has less users than it used to, and a lot of people don't really have it, other than like your mom and your dad, your grandpa, your aunts, your uncles, and, so on and so forth. And Instagram's group building skills or functions are pretty bad, actually.
It is ways to trap you on the site, even if that's clearly and obviously detrimental to you. And I'm not going to pull up studies like, say, how they proved that TikTok was causing Tourette's in teenagers. I'm not going to bring up studies about suicidality that it causes. I'm a writer. I like to read books. I review books. I surround myself with indies as best I can. And the indies are driving me up the wall right now. Most of you, in fact. There's like 3 types of indies that my feed is filled with. People that are posting nothing.
Okay. Well, I don't know. That's an odd one specifically for me. I'm having him go further more into what he's saying right here, because I want to hear his specific point on this.
You do have to advertise a little bit. People that just mindlessly advertise and just like have an automated post to repost their stupid link every single time, just mindlessly. That's not good engagement in my opinion. I can't imagine who's going.
Okay, that one specifically, I mean, it's something that we as people just do most of the time. Like, I do that myself. I'm guilty of that too. I do look for ways of switching it up every once in a while, because that is a better way of, like having engagement. He isn't actually wrong on that. Like just having the generic one you've already did. I would say if you've already had that same generic one about, I'd say max about 10 times, because I get it. People got a lot going on. I'll just, switch it up every once in a while. He's not wrong on that point. Switching up does bring you in more viewership on your engages on your tweets. So like, I had this generic one I used to do for like the Iron Age people, right? For like the community, because I wanted somebody to come on and promote their books on the Iron Man podcast. And we'd have, I just talked to them, right? And I figured out if I just switched up how I did my tweet, more people actually retweeted, engaged in it, commented. So that way I could actually get these people. Whereas if I kept the same post and it's the same generic one, it doesn't really do as much, right? Sometimes that can work if you have a lot of followers and you already have a lot of inbuilt engagement from your audience. That can work, but it's not going to be a one size fits all for everyone.
Going to buy a book like that. And then there's the people that are drama farming, or concern trolling, or baiting, or getting into these fights, or taking swipes at other creators, or just generally being toxic for no good reason. If you looked at these arguments, you would swear that they think that the other authors out there are directly competing with them.
Well, that's actually true, though. No, everyone is competing with each other in this. That's just how the nature of this works. Every person is competing with someone in anything and everything. That's just life in general. Like, you have people in college, let's use like nursing, right? Or being a doctor. There's people in the doctor class, whatever that you call it, the medical field. All of them are competing against each other, no matter what. Even from this kind of a indie-ish space, they're all competing with each other. They're competing with each other for likes and retweets on social media. They're competing with each other for getting an audience on, like if they have a YouTube channel. They're competing with each other on trying to get sales for their books, trying to build an audience. Everything we do is in competition. Now, the nature of that boils down to, okay, am I doing this to be a dick, like he mentioned right there, which obviously, he doesn't like when people do that, I can tell, which is not bad. It's not a bad thing at all. Or is it a friendly competition? Because I do believe friendly rivalries are fun, actually, because that's just inherently what we have to deal with. Like, you are inherently competing with someone when doing this. So it's, in my opinion, better to not look at it as if we're not competing, because I think that's a core reason why people get, like, let's say angry, and they start going back and forth a lot on concepts that they don't fully understand, because they don't even fully understand these things themselves, right? They don't understand that you're already competing with a person you call your friend in this, and that's just how the nature of that works, actually.
That someone else succeeding means you're not succeeding.
I like that. Yeah, that is a very good point, actually. A lot of people in the scene think that if someone else is doing really well and popping off on their book or graphic novel or Indiegogo Kickstarter campaign or YouTube channel, that means that other people think that they're not going to succeed. And it's like, well, you have to kind of break that down in a way that's understandable to people. I'm not saying he didn't. He said something just fine right there, which is all this stuff that we do is never going to pan out sometimes the way you think. It's good to have high expectations for yourself. It is. But you have to also fully understand that you're going to probably be the rule rather than the exception. It's a very hard thing for people to understand. I know he understands that. We talked about this, right? But it's something you have to drill in your head. You're not going to pop off and create the next best thing. You're just not. Some people in this might, actually. And that's great for them. But even if that happens, that doesn't mean you also can't succeed in your own way, actually.
One of the debates I'm seeing, one of them is obviously Shad has caused a conniption on Twitter because he keeps thumping for AI art.
Oh, he's talking about Shadversity's AI art post, actually. How would I say this? Because I don't hate Shad. I think Shad is a great person. Actually, from what I see on Twitter, I see him on FNT. Don't seem like a bad guy at all. The whole AI art thing, I'm just not a fan of it, if I'm being honest here. The only way that I would ever personally utilize that is if, like, I made an AI character of whatever, and I just, like, practiced to voice act or something. That was a thing I was eventually going to end up start doing with some friends of mine, potentially in the future, right? I was just thinking about doing that. That's like a cool idea, but I wouldn't sell that to you guys. Like, I wouldn't put that in a book or a comic book and sell that to you guys. That just sounds kind of fucked up in my opinion, right? Because I don't think people would naturally go out their way and buy that as art, right? But we need people like Shad out there to have that other side of the conversation, because, you know, the backlash against AI art is just insanely big. I think AI art specifically won't get as big is because of the automatic distaste for it, you know. And people use the argument of this is how all technology advancements bring in this conversation of people not wanting to ever change and all that other stuff, right? But there's specific but you would even look at that and go, this was just natural progression for this type of a medium, right? That specifically has so much more things aligning with it, to the point where the amount of hate it already has, whether it be from social media, whether it be from people IRL, I just don't see it popping off in a certain way. You know, it will be a useful tool, I will say, but I don't think it's going to be the next big thing like people are predicting. I think it's just not going to ever be that, honestly.
Have you seen me use AI art? I think you know what side I'm on there. But then the next most common one is like the integrity of reviews, because there is a whole bunch.
I agree with that one. I'm pretty sure I know what he's going to say. I've talked to him before, which is people need to understand, you thinking someone is good or bad faith when they're reviewing your product should. Okay, so here, I'll just say this. If someone already doesn't like you, their review probably just doesn't mean jack shit, because they already don't like you. They have a bias against you. Them giving you a quote-unquote fair shake on a review is just not going to be a thing. Just not. Let's just be honest here, you know? But you can't levy that with everyone else, because 9 times out of 10, everyone else is giving you that fair shake, their opinion on what they initially thought of your product, right? That's just how it's going to work, you know? And, you know, it's not saying that that person doesn't like you has an invalid opinion. It's just more like you can kind of already tell it's going to be like that. But most people aren't going to have that level of a reaction because they don't even have an audience in general. So you're going to have that, you know, more good faith review that you're looking for, potentially, you know, because people shouldn't just be looking for good reviews. You should just be looking for reviews that are both good and bad, because that'll help you improve at what you're doing as being a creator, right?
Bunch of people that believe that if you didn't like it, don't talk about it. You know, they're just hobbyists. You know, they're just getting started. They're trying to get their feet wet. You can't hold them to the same standard.
Yeah, I've never been under that impression either. Like, if you don't like it, don't talk about it, because that defeats the purpose of reviews. No, I fully agree with that. He's 100% spot on there. Like, that's just kind of stupid. Like, that defeats the entire purpose of talking about your specific hobbies in review form. Let's say you're just doing it with like some buddies. If it's like, if you don't like it, don't talk about it. Because I've been a part of groups like that where if you don't like it, don't talk about it. And it's like, but I love this stuff so much, so don't talk about the things that I love. That's just kind of stupid, you know? And people like that, I think, are just super sensitive on people not liking their specific subject or medium or whatever they consume, actually.
I obviously disagree with that. If you've watched my reviews, I'm very honestly open with, hey, I read this indie book, such as The Long Moonlight. I hated it.
Also, when he's saying that, he doesn't specifically mean that he hates the creators. I don't know where this came from. Maybe it was that Zack Snyder BS that we went through with the Snyder cult. But where did this come from, where if you didn't like the product, you don't like the person? Where did that come from? That's probably one of the most dumbest things I've ever seen grow as a thing that shouldn't even has been something, right? If I don't like fucking, I don't know, the creator of Kickstarts, do I hate that person? Like, that's such a weird, cringe thing that people have just manifested out of a nothing burger. Like, what?
I rank books on a tier list. relative to each other. Because when I do find something good, I want people to know that if I'm saying it's good, they can trust me, that it is genuinely good and worth their time.
And remember, I think James needs to understand it's true. That's just a subjective thing. What you genuinely think is good, someone might genuinely think is bad. It's not a one size fits all kind of, you know, thing we're doing here, right? Like if I say something, I said Across the Spider-Verse was the best superhero movie of 2023. There are people who just disagree with that. That doesn't mean I'm genuinely being, bad faith or anything like that. We're just going to have different opinions on what's genuinely good and bad. This is how it works, right?
more importantly, worth their money. But what we're all fighting for is time. I'll come back to that.
Which is not bad. Everyone's time is valuable, and I agree with that.
By bad luck, I just haven't come across a particularly good indie book yet. That leads to this fight.
And I want people to remember, it's all in his opinion. He hasn't come through a good book yet. This is just his opinion. This doesn't bode for people that don't think this exact same way when they got a specific book, actually.
That keeps cropping up. I swear, like every 2 weeks, like clockwork, it's just not going away. And maybe it's because I have so many accounts I follow that are based around caring about the Rippaverse. And let's be real here. Isom 1, mediocre. Is it going to start a great company? Maybe. Time will tell.
Well, I mean, there are people out there that liked Isom #1, actually. Genuinely liked it. I talked to Rippa Guy. He really enjoyed the first book, actually, And remember, guys, it's all fine if people don't think it's really good. It's fine. More than fine, actually, because that's just how this works, though. Not, like, for people to expect it's supposed to have this, 99% ratio of people loving it is ridiculous, If he thought it was mediocre, that's fine. But it doesn't mean his opinion is any less valid,
Did it do anything very wrong, very offensively bad? No, it's B tier inoffensive. It is,
and B tier stuff, I think is good. Actually, it's not him specifically, but when people do movie reviews, it's bad if you give a movie a B, and it's we living on the same planet. If you get a B or straight B's in school, at least in public school, at least here, that's pretty good, actually. What? B stuff is good. B is good. C and D are the average to not good stuff, actually. I'll take B quality stuff any day. Because getting A quality stuff is not just hard to come by, it's just, it's going to be the stuff that is above the other stuff, actually.
Is a point to bring in people to get the ball rolling. That's fine as a business decision. Yeah, Eric is not the best comic creator. Whoop-de-doo, maybe he's going to get better. I hear Isom 2 is significantly better. All indies are, of course, on the improvement. Unless they're just there are people that are just yeah, I wrote one book as a hobby. Isn't this great? Give me a pat on the back. Not talking about them. But when people go around acting like Isom 1 is the best comic ever produced because it made money, and then people read it and go, it's kind of mid. Or, oh, wow, I really like this.
Well, I think right there with that specifically, I think people that are overly fanatics about that are pushing two different concepts. Something that makes a lot of money doesn't automatically imply it's good, right? And you could levy that with, movies that have made billions of dollars, right? Just because a film made $1 billion doesn't make that specific film good, but that doesn't make it bad either, and that's going to be a very subjective thing. It's the thing that Andrew, who works with Eric July, brought up too. It's just all very subjective too. So, if someone is... It's like when someone says, hey, you should watch Naruto, it's one of the best animes ever made, and someone watches it and they're like, it's kind of mid. That doesn't mean that person who told it to you was wrong. You're just going to have a different opinion on what was consumed, actually.
Movie critic, he must have written a great book. Isn't this great that there's a paint-by-numbers spy thriller? It's kind of okay, but the problem is if people said, yeah, it's okay, there wouldn't be this debate, because some people are like, no, you have to be positive, you have to support. People need to get established, they need to build audiences, they need the help. And then there's other people going, yeah, but you're selling me a lie right now. And that keeps causing a freaking argument. And that...
Yeah, people, casuals when you tell them something is good based off word of mouth and they say you sold me a lie, it can't be a lie if it's a lie is an intentional thing you do if you are trying to mislead someone. That is what a lie is, right? So you couldn't have misled someone with a lie from your opinion unless you were just generally being dishonest about how you felt. If you're being dishonest based on how you felt, that would be a lie, right? But I don't think that's what most people are doing because that'd be a crazy ratio of that.
When other authors disagree, they start swiping at each other. There was that huge flare-up with JDA and Monster Hunter International guy, where they just started going at each other. So at least JDA kept making videos about it and bringing on people to bitch about it, and just annoying me generally. I don't want to read either of their products if that's how they behave, and that's how they monetize, and that's how they build on social media. Even though that is how social media works, I recognize that. But social media is the actual villain here. Let's not kid ourselves. It is not only the villain, but it is the actual competition. Social media and other entertainment like that is actually what is screwing over indie creators. It's not Disney. It's not the movies. It's fucking TikTok. Okay? Because what you're actually competing for when you try to sell a book, if I say, hey, buy Gamma Coin.
Well, it's weird. Because so yes, I agree on part of this. So I would say this. Yes, social media is just in general a very interesting tool. I would say this. I wouldn't call it bad or good. I think it's done more bad than good. I'll say that. But the people that use it dictate how this goes, right? The social media platform itself is inherently the villain because we're the people that use it, right? We're the people that use this actually for whatever reason. So we're naturally the ones that make an experience good or bad depending on any given day to day, right? So if there's kind of like the bad apple thing, that the concept of that, well, the only way to make a bad apple is if the person who actually made the bad apple is the person to do it, right? So that's kind of how I would levy that. And yeah, and also Disney's competition for everyone. Remember, all these corporate companies, competition for each other, whether they agree with it or not,
It's a $17 book, and you'll be entertained for 7 hours, and it's great, and you'll get pulled into my wonderful world where you'll want to see all the other stories I have. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. I'm asking for 7 hours of someone's time, maybe longer if they're a slow reader. People are very stingy with their time, but they're also very wasteful with their time if you ask them about it. Because
it honestly, like I said before, it just depends on who it is. Like, if you're talking about single individuals, like women and guys, right? Then they'll have extra time on their hands, really just depending on what they're doing, right? All just depends on what they're doing, But if you're talking about people, like, if your goal is to attract, like, families in your books, then yeah, that person's going to be more or less so strapped on time because, family obligations.
Because all people are tired between work, food, hygiene, bodily functions, sleep, family obligations, taxes, yard work, house repair, you name it. Stuff that people don't really have a choice about. They end up with very tiny slivers of leisure, and that doesn't necessarily line up with energy. And so if you write a book that requires people to actually think about it, that takes effort that a lot of people don't necessarily have, so they're going to be very hesitant to hand it over. It doesn't
All things I agree with. It's fine.
matter if it's good or bad. In fact, that's another thing. You wish you were competing with other indie creators, because if you were, you could just make a better product. That would be the solution.
Because I don't know what would be making a better product would actually mean, So everyone's idea of make a better product is so different from one another's. You're not gonna really get a common answer. You're gonna get common themes among said answers, but you won't have a common, like, I fully agree with that person on what makes a quality product. Because, and I remember I said I disagree with that in the aspect of you are competition for other people because you are directly competing against them inherently by trying to get an audience, and that's what they're trying to do as well. Even if it's different genres, because a lot of these guys are in the same genre, right? So you're competing with people in the same genre for an audience for your specific story. Everyone's competition for each other.
If what you were actually competing with was people in your medium, you could just be better.
It's hard to say that. Like, what is defined as better? I'm just trying to gauge what that means. What is defined as better? Because better is, it's all just very subjective anyway, you know? What I deem as better is not going to be what James deems as better. It's just how that's going to work, right?
But you clearly are not like that. If you look at bestseller lists and awards, like that
I would say this: best awards are trash, just in my opinion. Awards are just stupid for the most part. Like, I'll give us an example. Some of the best movies ever made, in my opinion, that won that year of like fucking, I don't know, what's the biggest award show, like the Oscars or whatever, right? Some people say that that wasn't even the best movie that year, and that really good movie doesn't deserve an award. And I'm sitting there going like, what? You know? But you have to remember, it's all very subjective. That's how it works, actually. You know? I think bestsellers and all that award stuff just means nothing, in my opinion. I think it's just stupid accolades for someone to just parade around, right? But I'm not saying those things shouldn't exist, because I do feel like, you know, that breeds better competition naturally just by that existing. I'm just saying that in the grand scheme of things, outside of it doing that as a good thing, it just kind of means nothing. Now, someone's going to be like, but doesn't that conflate two of your points? No. The aspect of it existing brings in people to want to try and do, quote unquote, better than the people that won the awards, the accolades, right? But if you're asking generally person to person, even someone having an accolade to themselves could generally just, they don't care anyway, you know? That's why I say awards don't really mean anything.
it is clearly not actual quality. It just doesn't work like that. It is the ability for that story to pull people away and give them a reason to engage with it, instead of obsessing about political events on Twitter, instead of following YouTuber drama clickbait videos back and forth, instead of vegetating with Netflix on one screen and a Minecraft streamer on the other, while watching a big titty VTuber on a third stream.
I love big titties.
When you are competing with multi-billion-dollar companies willing to hire psychologists, psychiatrists, hypnotists, con men, and everything in between to build the exact best algorithm that will like say with your phone will listen to the noise, the ambient noises the microphone can pick up, to figure out what room in your house you're in statistically, to target when they will give you specific types of ads and you'll be most likely to interact with them. That's what you're competing with. That is why people are spending less time reading books and reading comics and talking about movies and engaging with fandoms. It's also the economy cratering. I'm not an economics channel. We all see our grocery store prices. But people only have so much time, and it is currently being sucked up by low effort leisure. And you can't really blame people for doing that. Life is hard nowadays, or at least it seems hard. And, you know, for the record, you should probably drink more water, get more sleep, go for a walk every once in a while, and you'll realize that you have more energy and more mental clarity to engage with harder things.
I do agree with that. I think people need to honestly go out for walks more, go to the gym, just go out and do activities in general. Not all the time if your time is scrunched, but just what he said right there. It's actually a very good thing. It'll help you give a better perspective on not being on the internet all the time, you know?
In your day. Just general health advice right there. Real controversial, but you know that's the James Krake.
I shouldn't be controversial, but you know, people will take it as that because there are reasons, right? You tell someone, hey, do better than in an aspect of, you know, hey, you should do better as like, hey, go to the gym or walk outside or touch grass. No, you're telling me what to do. It's like crazy, right?
Great advice. That is the actual competition. So it's just annoying me when I see creators yelling at each other on Twitter about, why aren't you supporting indies correctly? You're just clout chasing. You should have told.
Yeah, I've never understood that first point that he brought up with that people say, which is why aren't you supporting indies correctly? There's not one way to support correctly. I mean, someone just liking and retweeting on your tweets or posts on social media is good in and of itself. That means it shows at least they cared enough to give you that, and that costs nothing too, right? There's not one way to correctly support something, but there are ways in that would show that a person cares more, that I would say, right? And some people are just clout chasing, though. That's not something that I would just disregard, because you have to kind of be able to understand some people aren't creators themselves or create anything that they're trying to push, and this person is sitting on the outside just saying a bunch of bullshit when they're not actually in the ring fighting themselves. And I think that has to be something that people see there too, because if a person is just like saying bullshit because they're just saying bullshit, I think that should be something that people need to notice, because is that really worth engaging with? I don't think so.
Told them that in private so they can look better, instead of trying to prop yourself up by putting them down. Even though you can see some of the stupidest, worst trash advertisements, I have seen covers that you can't read the title. How are you that stupid? People need to be able to read the title of your book if you want them to buy it.
That's true. That's true.
So I'm really, really tired of the Twitter drama. I am going to start blocking and muting if this continues, because I need to clear it up. I would prefer weirdo anime posters that just want to share memes. Like, is that going to get me readers?
We talked about, was it John De La Rose? JDA? Yeah. Well, John has a big audience, though. So John can have that kind of leisure in doing that. I like John's videos a lot. I think John's a great guy. I had him on before. When you have an audience like he does, and he doesn't go back and forth with someone, in my opinion, because he doesn't need to. It's only if he really thinks something is an injustice in his eyes, or someone doing something bad. So I wouldn't say that about John. I personally haven't got that feeling from him, but everyone's different, right?
I don't know, maybe. But, hey, yeah, I don't think I'm alone in being annoyed with this swiping. And you know what? If you're under the gun and stressed because your crowdfunder is coming up on a deadline and you haven't funded yet, I get that you're under stress. I'm sorry. I feel for you. Getting in fights on Twitter may feed the algorithm, but you're feeding the beast.
Yeah, and if you have an Indiegogo or Kickstarter campaign that is doing well, congratulations. But if it's not doing what you thought it would, don't look at it like a failure. Look at it as a way to improve, actually. Get the book out to people whenever you can, on time, hopefully, and see where you can improve, actually. Or it just might be the thing of, like, this wasn't the product to really get the people interested like you wanted, actually,
Not helping yourself. Till then, like and subscribe. And
oh, yeah, well, that's the end of the video here. Like I said before, I'll leave a link to this video in the description box below, which will lead you guys to James's channel, actually. And I thought he brought up a lot of great points in this video. The only things that I really disagreed with were, the whole, like, quality and that argument specifically is because that's just going to be very subjective from person to person, if I'm just being honest here. Like, his idea of what that is not going to be what someone else's idea of that is. There might be common ground in that if he is talking about a book that a lot of other people read, and they're going to share very similar opinions to that. That is a thing, which is fine. But and we are competition for each other. It's just how that's going to work. Everyone's competition for each other, whether it's friendly or not friendly. And the thing with the indie creators and the drama surrounding it, some of it's very warranted in some of the things they're bringing up. Some of it's not. Some of it's very, like, nonsensical things that I've been seeing, actually. But, it's going to be the territory when it comes to this. Also, the last thing that I'll leave off with this video is people to understand this is already a niche, kind of in and of a niche, right? So everyone here is already competing for a relatively small audience already, right? And then that right there is competition, right? Because you're a smaller guy competing for other smaller guys' audiences that they're also trying to compete with you against. right? So that's kind of where I would leave it off at. I think James did a great video here. A lot of great points he brought up, and I hope people improve in the future on whatever you're doing. Whether you're a content creator, whether you're an indie, whether you're trying to get a graphic novel produced on Indiegogo or Kickstarter or whatever you're doing. We'll see you guys later. I'm MSK. This is Online Cinema Entertainment, and I'm signing out, guys. Peace. Deuces.